Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info. Thank you so much for tuning in on this special edition of Behind the Wall, a little bit later in the weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the coverage from this past weekend at Phoenix. We're definitely going to go into talking about all of that. I hope you had a great time over the weekend as well. And it got plenty of stuff to talk about on here. But before we get into any of that, we absolutely have to talk about what was easily the biggest story from this weekend, and offer my sincerest condolences to the family, the Joe Gibbs racing family, on the passing of Coy Gibbs this past Sunday, former driver in the Truck Series and Xfinity Series, now one of the highest in command over at Joe Gibbs Racing here. Tragically lost his life in his sleep over the weekend, early between Saturday and Sunday morning at the age of 49. Again, offering sincerest condolences to the family, to Joe Gibbs, to the team and the drivers and staff. That was, it's hard to quantify all that, and I know that at this point here, the story is already, reached everywhere. I mean, I've been kind of surprised at where the story has popped up, even outside of the world of NASCAR there. Certainly respecting the family's privacy in this time. I'm sure further details will come up at some point or another. But that's just kind of where we are at this moment here. Mere hours after Ty Gibbs locked up the Xfinity Series Championship with a dominating run in Saturday's Xfinity Series Championship race. I believe he led 125 of the 200 laps in that event there, celebrating with his family. I think this has been said by a lot of people, and I will share this as well. Cherish every moment. Absolutely, because you just never know. So, again, condolences to the family over there as well on that. I will absolutely share my side of what I saw this weekend. Certainly, I guess really to kind of start off with what happened on that side of it there, and what was going on with the 23 team on Sunday morning. I will go into everything else from the weekend, Friday through Saturday through Sunday, and everything else in between too. But certainly got to address this story head on here. Certainly it was certainly an unusual morning, and it definitely cast a pall over the race itself. Understandably so. It was even mentioned in, of course, the pre-race ceremonies before the invocation there, of course. So on my side of it there, on Sunday morning, I was coming into the track a bit earlier there. I was meeting up with a couple of friends that had reached out to me about bringing some drawings over to Ty Dillon that were delivered on the previous morning, and I have those here. We'll show that a little bit later in the show here tonight. But big thanks to the two gentlemen I spoke with there. But we had a nice meeting there at that time. Jeff Gluck's, or I believe Pockrass's rather, tweet up was around that same time. And I received this tube here, and I wanted to secure it over in my over the media center at the time. So I went back over into the infield care center, or not the infield care center, the infield nearby there, and just happened to walk through the garage because the media center is just past. I believe it's right next to the fifth of the 5 garages, and next to the 4th garage, which is where the 23 car was. I hadn't had a chance to walk out on the grid or anything yet. But I had walked through the 4th garage building coming through there, and I saw the 23 car was sitting there, and it was very noticeable that no other cars were in there. And seeing a group of, I believe from the picture that I posted, it was about 5 or 6 different people that were standing alongside the 23 car there. And my first thought, quite honestly, was that there was maybe some kind of issue in inspection. I wasn't sure if they found some kind of issue with the car. It didn't seem like they were focusing that much on the car when they were standing there. Many people on their phones. People certainly something was off for sure. Never expecting what it turned out to absolutely be. And so that never entered my mind when I was posting about that. So when I posted the picture, I just simply said, I think in that I said, look, all the cars are on the grid except the 23, and I could kind of look around the corner and see that the other stalls were empty too. So it seemed like I don't know if anybody else was having a particular issue at that time, but that was certainly the case during that particular moment. But everybody was, everybody looked, something was off, like for sure. I mean, there was a group of fans there, maybe about 10 or 15 fans there at the same time, and nobody knew anything there at that point. So I posted the tweet, and then I went over into the media center, dropped off my stuff, and then came back out. And I went back out on the other side of it, on the inside of the garage. And I believe by that point they had the backup car rolled out of the 2311 team's hauler and parked directly next to it. And at that point, there were a few other fans standing by, and I think at that point also they had the barrier set up, like the little the like bank teller barricade thing there up front there to kind of keep people from coming in. And more people were coming up, and all of a sudden my phone just I start getting all these other messages on here about wondering what's going on, and people kind of talking more about it. And suddenly, Pockris comes in, and here comes Gluck, and here comes Parker Kligerman. Kligerman said something about like NBC sent him down there, and they didn't know what was going on, and you just suddenly had all these other people there, and I was perfectly satisfied just kind of stepping out of the way, because I don't really know anybody on the 2311 team. There was nobody I could talk to. And it was clear from the body language and what was going on in there that something serious had happened, certainly, and that it was not a mere technical inspection issue, especially when by this point they were bringing out a lot of seat inserts, and there were guys working on the inside of the car and making some adjustments, which gave the hallmarks of a possible driver change at that point. When I was standing next to Pockris, when he talked to one of the crew members in the garage area, and I overheard him, the crew member, kind of shrugged his shoulders and said something about a family emergency. And that's where Pockris's report from that came from. And then he was talking with Jeff Gluck, and I heard Gluck say something. He said "Coy," and at that point, I didn't even, it didn't register at that point. But then, of course, at that point, you're thinking, okay, it's something going on with the family? Is it Coy, Ty's father? Or is it, there were other rumors coming around at this point. Then it kind of got to the fog of war at that point, and there were people wondering if something was happening with Joe, if it was an issue with him, if it was an issue with Ty, if something happened after the championship celebration. Things were up there, but hearing it from Gluck was the first indication I had of anything with Coy Gibbs. But even then, nobody knew if it was, a medical emergency or just anything else had happened at that point. And also, going into the track that morning, there was no indication that there had been any disruption. I don't know if Coy Gibbs was in the motorhome lot, the private motor coach lot, which is right off the back straightaway, and it's right kind of by the entrance there. I walked right by there on the way into the track. I didn't see any kind of issues there, so I don't know if something happened there overnight. It did not happen, that close to, when everybody was at the track there. No indications of, police presence or anything like that. So again, had no indication at that point, but things, definitely, were, kind of picked up from there. You had more and more media showing up, and it was very tricky to kind of figure out what was happening. But, then you had Matt Collig show up, and then some of his drivers. You had Allmendinger there, Daniel Hemrick, even Brandon Jones came over. He was wearing street clothes. I don't think he ever got in the car. It looked like Allmendinger and Hemrick were the only ones, I believe, that got in the car that were making adjustments. I asked Matt Collig, as Pockris did as well, what was going on with the driver change. He said that he did know who the driver change was going to be, but, out of respect for the team, he wouldn't say who it was, and certainly respect that. Yeah, and then, really at this point, I think it was probably about a good 15, 20 people. I mean, Eric Estep was there after, staying over from the Xfinity race, and some other people were there as well. And people were kind of moving back and forth between expecting a statement from the hauler or expecting something to happen over at the garage area. And they kind of closed more of the doors off because each of those garage stalls have like their own doors on them. And all of them are ultimately closed, like when the race starts, or at least on the outside of it there. But on the inside of it, they were definitely trying to kind of keep things as private as they could. And obviously in such a fluid situation as it was, that was certainly the case there. It really kind of picked up speed from there, and people were getting more information. ultimately, there, at least from what I saw, there was never a public statement at the track, or at least at the immediate presence of the 2311 hauler or the garage area. I stayed there pretty long until about, pretty much when the news came out that Hemrick was going to drive, and the 2311 team, I think, did their tweet of it. Word of that spread pretty quickly. And at that point also, that was when the 2311 team hauler driver kind of dropped the lift gate, kind of moved the fan seating out of the way there too. Certainly at that point, I think, they weren't going to, I don't even know what, other fan things they were doing, or sponsor obligations or whatever they had to work with there. I imagine those were probably canceled at that point. At least it seemed like that from when they were kind of clearing out a lot of the fan stuff there at the time, and also would have allowed to load the cars a lot quicker after the end of the race there. So they did get the car back out onto the track after Hemrick was adjusted into the seat. Again, I don't think Brandon Jones was ever seated in there. I saw him standing by, but I didn't see him get in there. And I'm sure there are other people that did quotes from everything that was happening there. Yeah, that was most of it. And Kurt Busch was there as well. That was one other part of it too. I was trying to tweet pictures of it as it was happening, but I think there was just so much traffic at that point, especially about a half hour or an hour into what was going on there at the time. And it was very hard to get any other information out at that time. And so I was kind of trying to post some more messages on it. And I appreciate everybody's patience with that too, because I know it was very hard to discern in this particular situation what was and what was not a significant fact. Obviously, if they're bringing in different seat inserts, if they're bringing in steering wheels, they're bringing in other equipment. Clearly, these are other things they're doing that they were part of the driver change and was a particular issue during all of that. It was very strange, very, very strange to say the least. So 2311 posted their tweet about it, saying that Hemrick was going to be taking over the ride in the 23, ultimately was going to send him to the back of the field before the start of the race. They pushed the car back out onto the grid at that point. This was, again, and a very tight turnaround. I think that was the timing of it all. I think the whole thing from when I came by there to when they pushed the car out on the grid couldn't have been more than maybe an hour and a half. I think it was a pretty tight turnaround. And if that, I know that with the time change and Arizona being kind of weird with that, it was a little hard to figure out what time it was actually, but that was kind of the situation on that end. And then by the time I went out on the grid and got back around to the back of the grid, that was when I saw the statement from Joe Gibbs Racing that Coy Gibbs had passed away. And then, of course, that was, the rest I think is pretty clear on that end. So, that was more or less my experience from that end. Again, I appreciate people, staying tuned on that feed and staying respectful of what was a difficult situation. I'm sure you can understand why I had to be very careful with what I was posting at the same time, because this, what I do with the last place coverage, I try to have fun with it as much as possible, and seeing what's happening in behind the scenes. And I don't do a lot of breaking news or like a big thing that happens. Closest thing I've had that I've experienced to this was last year at Vegas with Joey Gase's accident, and how little information was coming out about that. And thankfully, in that particular situation, Gase was checked and released by the time we left the track that night. Tragically, this was a situation that did not have such a happy ending. But I think the other people that were there, at least from what I saw, they handled it very well too. And I was very impressed with that. And I was kind of, again, just seeing, people trying to verify information, contact this person, contact that person, and seeing just, there were a lot of, there was so much stuff that was up in the air. Again, there were people that were wondering if Joe Gibbs was ill. There were people speculating as to which drivers were coming in. There was something I heard about John Hunter Nemechek flying in, but his flight wasn't going to land until after the race started because of the time turnaround. There all sorts of stuff was kind of all up in the air. And so it had to be very careful about what was being posted at the time. And of course, just sharing this now, well after the fact, of course, now that we know what the facts were, but just to kind of give you an idea of what was kind of going on there at that time. So, really, really strange situation there for sure. And still kind of digesting it a little bit, but certainly the way that played out was very, very unusual, very unusual. So hopefully we'll hear some more information on that. But definitely respect the family's, privacy during all this because, obviously the circumstances of that are horrendous. So hopefully we'll find out more about what's going on there. Undoubtedly, this is also going to much more trivially. This is going to delay any news that we're likely going to hear about what's going to happen with the number 18 team next year. Now that Kyle Busch has run his last race there with the team, there were indications going into this race that any report about what the driver lineup was going to look like next year was going to be announced after the season. It wasn't necessarily indicated it was going to be right after the season concluded, but I wouldn't anticipate any news on that front for quite some time. I mean, we're going to have to find out sometime during the off season, but that's absolutely not the priority here at that point. So, it's very, very, very bizarre situation there. So, wanted to kind of just address that kind of head on to kind of lead off the show here. We'll talk more about, again, the Truck Series, Xfinity, and the Cup Series here. Got a couple things for show and tell here as well. We'll do the magnet drawing later on tonight, and we'll kind of cover that at the same sense there too. But if you have any questions on that, feel free to drop them in the chat there. But that was mostly my experience. For those of you tuning in just now, just kind of leading off here, kind of talking about, of course, the Coy Gibbs tragedy and kind of what I saw back on Sunday morning there. But again, that was very much the situation on that end. The weekend in general, though, I mean, with the actual racing on the track, I know there's been a lot of speculation, especially with the Cup Series race, about if it lived up to particular expectations. Of course, as we now know, Joey Logano, congratulations to him on getting what is now his second Cup Series championship, pulling off a victory as part of a weekend where all four of the races, or I believe it was all four, certainly all the top three series were won from the pole, and the three championship races, the Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks, were all won by the actual championship winner. Zane Smith in the Truck Series, Ty Gibbs in Xfinity, and then Joey Logano in the Cup Series race. I know there's already been some speculation as to actually how this particular, if this Cup race lived up to the expectations after the Hail Melon. During our last show, of course, we were talking all about what had happened with Ross Chastain and that crazy move on the final lap of the Martinsville race. And there was no doubt at the racetrack there was plenty of attention on that, certainly on the more lighter side of things here. During the pre-race ceremonies, I think there was a wrestler that was doing the driver introductions and introduced the four championship drivers and had all the nicknames for the Hail Melon and the Grinding the Rind, or whatever all the nicknames were of what happened there with the one team last week. I think whether or not that was going to actually be possible or something was going to happen, especially when Chastain seemed to indicate that he kind of hurt himself a little bit in that incident and wasn't really too eager to do it again. I think that's whether or not it was realistic to expect it or not. I don't think so. I certainly really wasn't, even when he was catching him at the end. That's kind of the big thing I noticed from the end of that particular race, is that Chastain was catching Logano by leaps and bounds. We're doing things a little bit out of order here, but we'll kind of touch on all three of the races here. He was absolutely just biting into Logano's lead. And I know Blaney was there too, kind of running interference for him a little bit and making things kind of as interesting about that. But, it could have very easily been a situation where, Chastain would have caught him. And I think if Chastain was able to put some more pressure on Blaney himself was close enough to Logano that maybe we could have had something very similar to what we saw in both the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, where you had at least three of the playoff guys, throw a blanket over them, and they were all, right in one knot there and being as close as possible in that. So it's a different situation there. So that I thought it was exciting. I thought it was a pretty good battle there at the end of it. I think they put on a good show at the finish. I know it had a lot of long green flag runs, very, very low attrition, which had a direct role in, of course, our last car championship battles. BJ McLeod had already locked up the championship in the last car Cup Series with 4 last place finishes. Corey LaJoie was the only driver that was within striking distance, and he was eliminated from contention after the Martinsville race. There was again a little bit of a screw up on my part during that. Through this entire weekend, I don't know why this was so much more of a problem than in years past. I had a very hard time trying to figure out a way to effectively hand over the certificates and have them on hand without it being like too difficult in the Truck Series race, because I don't like carrying my backpack around when I'm going around the infield. I may change to a different backpack to kind of make things a little bit more streamlined, because I think my backpack's kind of fallen apart a little bit. I've had the same one since like 2005, so it's pretty old. But in the Truck Series race, when I talked with Spencer Boyd, I had the certificate like, in my hand, or I was tossing it back and forth, or I had it under my arm, or I had it here, I had it there. I was kind of tossing it around. Fortunately in that race, he fell out of the race very early because he had whatever has been his continuing list of mechanical problems in that race. And I was able to give him the certificate and could hear him over the microphone. The Xfinity race was different. Things were kind of much more in the up in the air and get more into that. But with the Cup Series one, BJ McLeod had already locked up the championship. And I didn't want to bring my backpack again. So I was like, okay, let me put it in my utility belt and kind of carry that around. My fanny pack, I'm bringing it in there. And I had it on my person, and I was going out to the grid. I did the diecast pictures of the cars on the pit road there, which I wanted to do. And a lot of our fans came by and they took pictures and they were having fun with it. And that was cool. Around that time, I lost BJ McLeod's certificate. Just complete screw up on my end. I had it coiled up in this one pocket, and it was like wrapped around my sunscreen bottle in my bag there. And I thought I was going to stay in there. And I don't know, I must have just stooped over and it just kind of, launched out or whatever, but it was just gone. And it was, so my first thought was like, oh my God, like now I'm not worried about that, on the surface, because of course I could print another one and set it back out. That's not a big deal. I'm a little bummed that I didn't get to talk to BJ and give it to him in person, because he actually won it back in 2019, I think 2019, and I missed him that year and wasn't able to give it to him in person. So I was kind of looking forward to doing it, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise with what had happened with the Gibbs situation. Maybe the drivers were just more eager to just get out of there. So sometimes things happen for a reason. But my bigger concern was this. So the certificate is gone. It's a laminated piece of paper. Is it going to end up in the grill of one of these cars? Is it going to end up stuck to one of these cars? This is a championship race. So I'm like, for about 20 minutes, maybe not that long, maybe 15 minutes, I was going up and down, because I came out the garage, onto pit road about halfway up, right behind kind of where the championship 4 were. I mean, a little bit behind it. It was really packed, obviously. So I was kind of going up there. I did the diecast shots in the stall next to where Garrett Smithley's stall was, which was a bit further up. And so I was going back and forth. I was looking past this car and past that one, and I'm looking here and I'm looking there. And, and it was weird. If it blew away when I was doing the diecast pictures, nobody stopped me during that. Nobody said like, hey, you dropped this or something. Like, that never happened. And it's okay. If somebody kept it, if you're watching this and you found it, keep it. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to sweat it like, the banner for the other deal there. It's not that expensive to me as the banner was to Front Row Motorsports. So don't sweat that. I got to print another one of those and send it out here. But I was like, oh my God, like what if, it sticks to the front of one of these grills. It's like, well, that's, that could be anybody's, but it's got my name signed on the front of it. Luckily I don't think that was a problem. Like it was on, I kept telling myself, okay, it was on pit road. The wind was blowing up towards the end of pit road. So worst case scenario, maybe it ended up kind of in that big open space, where the Phoenix Raceway logo is and there's nothing else in there. I think that could have been a situation there. So, I don't know if it turned up or not. I didn't see it after the race either. I stayed a little bit later after the race there, but I didn't see it. So, I hope it wasn't, well, and then the other incident that happened during the race, it wasn't really for last place. It was for next to last. Brad Keselowski's fire on his number 6 car. I didn't even realize that had happened. Like the sight lines in the infield at Phoenix, I think we talked about this last week, are very tricky. You could be in one spot that has like a great view of like 1/3 of the track, but you will have absolutely no idea what's happening on the other 2/3, and you won't be anywhere near a screen. I usually go on the back stretch because that's where the entrance to the Cup garage is. The other entrance to the Cup garage that's used is over on the dog leg, clear on the other side of the track. And I think that's where Keselowski's car ultimately broke down. Lastbro caught a couple of pictures. He was on Rattlesnake Hill on Sunday and got some shots of the number 6 car trailing smoke, and then heard, over the, I guess over the PA system or something, that the car had caught fire. I went back to the garage area pretty soon around that point, and I couldn't see the car at all. So I never got a picture of that one. I imagine, I don't know if NASCAR put it in one of their own haulers or put it somewhere else, or if it was kind of in one of the garage stalls and they closed it. But it was pretty soon around that time. I don't know what lap he actually went into the garage area. I know how many laps he completed at the time he dropped out. It was about, I think it was during the Alex Bowman, Michael McDowell incident on the backstretch. So just a misconnection on that. That's probably, it always bothers me, stuff that I miss along the way. That one definitely bothers me there, considering that the fires in these cars have been such a big story. I didn't realize that the situation was as bad as it was until I saw the video. I believe Jerry Jordan posted it over at Kicking the Tires, the video from the press box there of the fire behind the right front on Keselowski's car. So it's certainly good to see him get out of the car there. But yeah, I had no idea where the car was or what the situation was beyond that. So that was a bit of a misconnection at that same point. So, I got into a situation there, and then I checked. So I checked that out. What I did not miss, though, was the last place finisher. Landon Castle dropped out of the Cup race there. Got involved in an incident where he just lost traction, in his words, coming off of turn 2, backed into the wall. Unfortunately, bounced into the path of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Both of them made pretty hard contact. Probably the biggest incident in terms of actual contact during the race. Second straight race that I've covered where Landon Castle was out of the race with what at first glimpse looked like relatively minor damage, but did include damage to the rear bumper of his car. But Landon was checked and released from the infield care center after that. I kind of met him halfway after he was checked out and spoke with him briefly, and that ended up being integrated into the article there. So if you want to check that out, that gets checked out there too. So, that was kind of the situation. So for the Cup race there, yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting, again, seeing the kind of low attrition at the beginning of it. B.J. McLeod and Garrett Smithley were battling for last place at the beginning. It was also interesting kind of seeing where Hemrick was working his way up. He was about to be lapped, I believe, when he was about the 26th spot. I think he stayed on the lead lap for longer than that. I think the cautions fell the right way for him. I got to look at the results here to see where he actually finished in that one, to see where he actually worked all that out. Let's see here. We'll kind of get the Cup Series results. Looking for the 23 finishing. Oh, he actually finished ahead of Bubba Wallace. He finished in the 17th spot on the lead lap. So, again, tremendous effort for Hemrick, given the fact that, again, jumping into a next-gen car in a last-minute situation. So many, just so much happening this year with that program and these driver changes. Just a bizarre set of circumstances. That was kind of the other thing, too. I mean, Ty Gibbs was very, very fast in Cup Series practice and qualifying. Had, I believe, the fastest lap in his group in qualifying, and then it ultimately started, I believe, 10th or 12th in the race there, or was slated to, before the driver change, of course. But, definitely was another one to kind of look at there at the same time. But, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the situation on that end. So, yeah, pretty open. It was relatively open and shut last place battle. On the Cup Series side, we had, again, Landon Castle wrecking out after B.J. McLeod and Garrett Smithley were trading off the spots, both of them kind of losing laps in the early stages. When you have a first stage that goes by that quickly with very, very low attrition, a lot of these teams in the back of the field, they have to really fight to get out of the way. On the backstretch, for example, where I was, best they can do in some cases is just kind of pull to the inside and hope that they don't get caught up in somebody else's mess. The Michael McDowell incident seemed like that was almost a situation there too. I was standing there off of turn 2 right when those two cars kind of crossed paths and got involved in that one incident and kind of spun down the back straightaway there. Happened very quickly there, as certainly you would expect for these particular Cup cars there. But yeah, I think there was. Excuse me. I apologize if I'm yawning a little bit here. We just got back. We literally just got back here at noon today. Got back over to drop the rental car off here and getting back. So we're going to kind of be hitting the reset button between this and this week. Yeah, I think it was a pretty solid Cup race. I mean, certainly not the craziest one. I mean, when Lastbro was out there in 2017, when Matt Kenseth pulled off the win, I think that was one where he really particularly said that, there was just so many things that were happening and so much back and forth between these drivers, that it was just a different set of circumstances. Whereas in this one here, a little bit different. But I don't think it was a bad race. I think if you look at situations where, I've certainly seen way worse races, even at races at this particular track. I think it's one to look at. But obviously, I mean, all the stuff that had happened in the morning was more of a distraction there at that point. So, well, let's see. Let me go into the results here again. Yeah, we got about the other incidents there. There was the other spin on the main straightaway off of turn 4. The incidents with, there we go. That's right. Michael McDowell got a piece of that one as well with Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick. Yeah, it was kind of bizarre how some of that all played out there. So Landon Castle, your last place finisher. Brad Keselowski next last. Alex Bowman got some pretty good nose damage in the McDowell incident. He finished in the 34th spot. Smithley was laps down after just running off the pace during the race there in the 33rd spot. Ricky Stenhouse rounded out the bottom 5 in that situation with the damage to the nose of his car. But again, very impressed by Ross Chastain in that race to really kind of just put it the best, mount the best challenge he could. Much like I said at Martinsville last week, I think really, to be fair, every one of those Championship 4 drivers had a shot at making something happen. I do think that Logano definitely had the best car. It's kind of hard to argue that he didn't, especially where he and his teammate basically led all the laps. I mean, very nearly all of them between Blaney and Logano. Blaney very nearly getting to be the 20th different winner this year. Lastbro pricked Truex to win be the 20th different winner, and very nearly did. I mean, he was running about third for a good portion of it there, but unfortunately a pit road penalty dropped him back in the order there. Also good to see Stewart-Haas Racing continue to be as good as ever. Kevin Harvick keeps his top 10 streak at Phoenix going there with the 5th place run. Chase Briscoe was in the mix there too. Great run out of him in the 4th spot. Kyle Busch, I think that was probably one of the stories that people were really wondering about. I still never heard much more about what on earth happened at Martinsville to make him just so terribly slow that week and seeing him just be so far off the pace. But coming back into this race here and finishing in the 7th spot, especially after starting back in 22nd, great recovery for him. I think that's a very positive thing. I'm glad that for his last run with the M&M sponsorship, that it was something that could still be positive there. I mean, not a top 5, not a win, but still being in the mix, especially when 4 of the other guys out there are going to be stepping it up that much more to try to win the championship. I think that was a fine showing out of him. Exactly, Randy Bowman. Yeah, mentioning Christopher Bell having the problem with the right rear wheel got stuck on his car or something on a pit stop. I mean, again, it just comes down to just one little moment. And again, a lot's been made about the incident between Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott, the front straightaway. I'm willing to see it. Yeah, it's championship time. You got to go out there and actually try to beat somebody else out there. I mean, it was inevitable that somebody was going to run over somebody on that thing when the cars fan out that way. And it's, again, with that pit entrance there, or the pit exit there, that wall that kind of protrudes out, and everybody seems to just flirt with that. I always wonder what's going to be the first incident we're going to have. Is it going to be somebody going to hit that pit wall right at the end and spin themselves into the inside wall? Or are we going to get somebody having that incident coming off of turn 4 into the chute at Sears Point where that wall kind of sticks out there? It's a close call. But I think at this point here, whether it was a missed call from one spot or the other or both of them, it certainly could be possible. But, at the end of the day, you still have to make sure that, one of them can actually kind of get there to the finish. It's just, one inch, one move, one anything else. It could have been an incident that took both of them out, but ultimately took Chase Elliott out of championship contention, lost those couple of laps, couldn't get him back. Race is just too fast. And we've seen so many times this year when any driver spins out that they're just not going to be a factor for the rest of the race at that point. So that's going to be always a problem. But yeah, I mean, again, I think it was a fair, a fair point there for all the drivers to kind of get in the mix there. I mean, it's unfortunate some of them had more problems. And again, the problem with this Phoenix race, as a venue, 312 laps is such a short race. I mean, it felt like it was about like the length of watching a movie, is the way Last Bro put it. It went by like relatively quickly there. So if you have any kind of particular issue in the first act, say, you may not be able to get it back. I mean, especially guys like in the back of the field, they're losing the laps at the beginning. Any one of these top contenders, if they just missed the setup a little bit and they weren't just within that same range with everybody else, it could have been just as disastrous for anybody else. And that was certainly the situation that we saw here. But I think all four of the championship drivers have a lot to be proud about here. I think a little bit less so with Chase Elliott. He seemed like he never really found his rhythm in these playoffs. Yeah, I know he won during them. But we never really saw the same consistency out of him that we saw back in 2020. It seemed like he was going to be really kind of just hanging on there down the stretch. And I think the benefit of him having the most wins in the regular season and getting the regular season championship, that carried him a lot of the way. But that won't get you over the finish line. You still got to beat the other three guys. Logano has always carried himself, in contrast, very relaxed. Was very relaxed at Vegas and excited he can go for a championship. Everything else was a bonus. I think probably winning the first round of the round of 8 is probably the best situation you could be in, as long as you don't get too complacent over those next two races. I was a little concerned about Logano coming into this race because at Talladega, he was just not a factor at all. He's my fantasy pick for that weekend, and I was just noticing he was like 26 for the entire race. But I do think there was a lot of prevent defense going on in that race, given all the problems with concussions and all the dangers that happen over at super speedway racing in general. So I think it was just, an abundance of caution that certainly happened there. And that was definitely what was taking place at that point. But Christopher Bell in the 10th spot there, and Chase Elliott showing back in the 28th spot, well back in the order there. So, again, I thought it was a pretty competitive race. Not the best race ever, but again, not the worst race either. And I do think all four of the championship drivers had a shot at it. I mean, it's so easy to look at ones like the Xfinity and the truck races where you have like at least three of them there and they're like right on top of each other. And you'd love to have a race where they're literally racing for the championship. But sometimes things happen. And especially in the Cup race, when it's as long as it is, you have more opportunities for people to make mistakes. And that's going to be the situation. And that was certainly the case this time around here with those guys. Let's see here. Chase Elliott, the points champion, though. So yeah, there you go. It's a point death killer. That's another way to look at it too. But again, it's much like you have all these other championship battles there where a driver kind of falters towards the end of the year. That's definitely something that this current point system doesn't seem to reward anymore. You got to be really good at those particular races. And I think that's the one problem with NASCAR having this point system in there, is that winning isn't normal. You can't count on having to win a particular race, or you can't count on beating a certain number of drivers out there. I mean, when you have a points championship, it may be a Matt Kenseth situation where they just win one race all year or some situation like that. But I think that's just kind of one other way that exactly it plays off there too. So that was kind of the cool thing too. And big thanks to the folks that posted the picture online there. I'm just checking my phone here on this with Kyle Busch. I was standing right near Kyle Busch's his pit stall there towards the very end of the race, and kind of watching what was happening there at the in the final stages. So when Kyle Busch pulled in, he actually parked his car pretty much right in front of his pit stall and was hugging each of his crew members there. And he was standing like really close, like he almost was kind of walking my direction. So I kind of stepped out of the way because, of course, there were these other crew members that were kind of coming out to meet him. And then, media guys kind of came in afterwards at that point. It's got to get quotes from Kyle. That's where you kind of see me in the background there. What was happening at the same time, too, down on pit road, they had, a lot of the representatives from M&M's or team members, people on the social media team, were taking pictures kind of behind where Kyle Busch was getting interviewed. And one of the guys on the crew was taking the picture, so I was offering to take the picture for him so he could be in the shot. And he turned me down at first, and I was about to walk away, and then he brought me back over there to take the picture. So we got him in the shot there, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see how that all plays off, and I'm glad that Kyle Busch got a decent run out of it there at the end. He was very emotional in discussing Coy Gibbs there in his interview. And that was definitely discussed there at the same time, too. So I think it was on the Front Stretches channel. They posted that video there. So that was the situation on that one. But yeah, I think that was pretty solid. I think that's kind of most of what I kind of was thinking about that particular race there. Let me get into some of my other notes here too. Kind of checking this at the same time. There we go. I always try to do this it's always tricky doing one of these Tuesday night shows after we cover the races. I try to do it by memory, and then there's always something else. It's like, oh, I forgot to say this. I forgot to say that. So I'll kind of get into, kind of our we'll go back kind of in the chronology here and kind of move back to the start of the trip there. So first and foremost, big thanks to those of you in the Patreon, patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. We even had a couple new members join, so got their names written on the magnet. This particular magnet has been through hell and high water, I'll tell you what. We went through, I think 2 rainstorms on the way down to Arizona. We went all the way down within sight of the Mexican border, actually, when we went to the Cloud Museum, which was a auto museum down in southern Arizona, or right on the California-Arizona border, right in that region. Because it wasn't too far from that, from Yuma, Arizona. So we were kind of in that region there. And then traveling back north. And then today, the skies just opened up, coming back into California here. So, the magnet, when it does we'll do the drawing here later tonight. I'll probably make that a separate video like I do on the Twitter feed there. That'll be something that'll get posted there too. So that'll be something we shared with it. But an enjoyable trip on the way down. Last Bro and I left last Wednesday afternoon and kind of got a head start on it. We got down to San Bernardino, just outside Fontana, stayed there for the night. Next morning, we went down again past the Salton Sea, which is pretty far down southeastern California, right near the Arizona border. We went around that region there and then kind of worked our way towards the border. And again, you can kind of get down there, you can kind of see the border fence. Maybe about a mile away from where the freeway is. This part where it kind of dips down right near it. So we were down there. And then, the Cloud Museum was really cool. This is something Last Bro found online. I believe there's another channel. And again, it's spelled how it sounds, Cloud. There's a guy named Jimmy Cloud who owns a small parcel of land in, what was it called? Bard, California. Bard, B-A-R-D. Very, very small town, basically, as I believe Wilbur Thomas put it, a wide spot in the road. You're kind of going from there near there's a military base on one side, and there's Yuma on the other side, and then Bard is kind of just a stretch of road where there's a palm tree farm, and then right up the road is this guy, and Jimmy has this plot of land that he has fenced off, and he charges people to come in to look at it, and he has a collection of mostly Ford Model A's, Model T's, 1920s and 30s cars, or 1910s, even older. He had a 1930s mobile home that was parked on the property. He can let you walk. He let you climb inside and kind of take a look around. He has he's just a collector. He's this really passionate collector down there, and he has this open air museum, which is basically in a perfect spot because the weather is really nice. So he parks these cars outside, and he told us that he actually gave us a guided tour. We actually arrived there right as he was actually leaving the property. He's about to go back home, but he gave us the guided tour through there, which he really didn't have to, but it was really cool. So he kind of showed us around. This is a place actually Joey Logano should check out too, quite honestly, because most of them were Fords. Most of them were old school Fords, different body styles. You can check out my Twitter feed. I posted a number of pictures from there. And he insisted that all the cars on that property were operational. Like you just, puts a little bit of fresh fuel in there and kind of dust them off, and the thing will just get back running again. And he drives them on some of the local roads. So if you ever find yourself down by Yuma or down by like southern, kind of the California-Arizona border there, it's very much a niche place. But I believe there's a YouTube video, again, that kind of did a tour through there. But definitely look up the Cloud Museum, CLOUD, and that's located down there. So very interesting collection for sure, and I think kind of set the tone for the weekend quite well when we started through there. So we checked out that place there, and this would have been Thursday afternoon, and we kind of worked our way back north again to get out Phoenix direction. So we got stuck on this road. We were trying to go north back to Highway 10, which would get us back, or I guess Interstate 10, to try to get back over to the racetrack. Because our goal was to try to get there before the credential office closed, which we ultimately did. We were stuck behind this mobile home that was going like 30 miles an hour, and it was putting both of us to sleep in the car. So we had to kind of trade off on that on the way up there. Finally got up to Quartzsite, which got us back on the freeway. And at that point, we had another storm that we drove through. They had and then it was mixed with sand, so we had sand kicked up. It made everything kind of look gray around us there. It was crazy, but we drove through all of that. And got our way over to where the credential office was just after dark on Thursday. They were just wrapping up Truck Series practice there. That's why I didn't do any coverage there that night. But that was okay. I figured, especially after all the driving we did those 2 days, usually the first night we get there, we usually kind of take things a bit easier. So we went out and saw a movie that night. We actually checked out that, those of you who are anime fans, they had that new One Piece movie that came out this weekend, and we checked that out. It was pretty good. I'm more of a Bleach fan than a One Piece fan, as I've said on the show here before. But I enjoyed it because I really liked the movie Gold that they did a couple years ago. This one, Red, it wasn't quite as good, but it was okay. It wasn't too bad. One thing that was kind of strange down in Phoenix is when we went to see that movie, we saw it 7:45 that evening. And it was just completely empty. There was nobody in downtown. And it was very bizarre. Everything I don't know if they just have an early curfew or something. But the mall where the theater was all closed. Nobody was there. Nobody was on the street. You had nobody just kind of walking around. Very little traffic, very little auto traffic coming through there, which made it easier to find a parking spot, I guess. But I thought that was kind of unusual, especially for the weekend NASCAR was in town. And I know they did a lot of promotions in downtown during the week as well. So that was a little strange, but that was pretty cool. We had a good time with that and checked that out, and kind of had a good evening there and kind of reset. Went back to the hotel and then got ready for Friday. Let's see. Got to use my pictures as a reference point here. Let's see here. So, yeah, that's a Cloud Museum. So, oh yeah. So Friday morning, getting over to the track there, I got there just when Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell were there for the NASCAR's State of the Sport speech, which was very interesting. One thing that immediately became apparent to me was how passionate Steve Phelps in particular is about this Chicago street course race. This is his baby, and I know I was retweeted a message here just before I started the show tonight, showing that the prices are pretty high here. This person here, this is from, where was it? Doug, at Doug_WY on Twitter, posted a picture here of tickets from two tickets for the weekend, at $415.18 each, for that, on that race. I don't know how much it's costing to put this on. But yeah, I mean, I thought the Wilkesboro thing was expensive enough already. I mean, they had the fight for tickets last week. And now this Chicago one here, I guess, is going to be even more intense. I think it's going to be an interesting show. I have mixed feelings about how competitive it's actually going to be. I know it's not unprecedented to have stock cars run on a street course. Derek Cope actually raced one back in the 1980s where he actually lost to Herschel McGriff because the rear clip of his car was damaged after the fuel cell was bent up. So that was kind of a different situation there. So he wasn't able to get enough fuel in the car, ran out of fuel, and lost to Herschel. Derek has more of the story. More of that story is going to be in the book there that I'm still working on there for next year. So I hope to get that completed there pretty soon. But yeah, Steve was very passionate about that. It seemed like he was mentioning that for a good portion of his opening speech there, saying like, it's not going to be outside Chicago. It's going to be in downtown Chicago. We're going to run on this street. We're going to run on that street. And there's other cities that are calling us, and we're going to be running street courses there. And then we got interest from Canada and Mexico, and maybe we're going to do international races. It was like, wow, like, okay. I mean, we'll see. I mean, they said, from that speech that one thing that did come up is that apparently this 2024 schedule, they're going to try to toss things up again. And what does that mean? Does that mean they're going to change what the finale is? It sounds like Phoenix is still for next year. Is it going to be a different finale? Is it going to be, are they going to move? Is Sears Point going to be in part of the West Coast swing? How many Bristol races are you going to have? Are you still going to do Bristol Dirt? Are you still going to do the Clash of the Coliseum? Or if you're going to do the Clash of the Coliseum, is it still going to be in LA or is it going to be somewhere else? I think a lot of things are still on the table. And I think that definitely from Steve Phelps' direction of it, he was kind of really encouraging more excitement about that coming up. So, it was kind of interesting. It was interesting to see how that played out there. So, yeah, but that was kind of the start of the weekend. I kind of checked out of that a little bit early when it was kind of wrapping up to kind of see what was going on with the ARCA race. I tried to do a little bit more coverage with the ARCA West race this year. I didn't have an article planned for it. Our other staff writers usually kind of do more of the writing on that particular series. I don't follow it as closely. It's the top 3 series. But I was very interested in kind of checking out the other cars in the garage area and some of the other paint schemes from that division. Seeing some of the other trucks come by. I know they had that crane that was in the infield with the bar that was suspended like 150 feet above the ground, and you like strap yourself in. Apparently they had like invites for media there, but it was invite only. I didn't hear about that. So I'm not sure if I would have gone up there anyway. Heights I'm not too crazy about. Confined spaces I have more of an issue with than that, to be perfectly honest. But pretty cool idea though, still. And it was around that time that the picture that Gluck posted of the race car graveyard, that corner, and that was the first time my phone blew up over the weekend, saying like, oh my God, you and NASCAR man need to go out and check that out. So at that point I went back out, and I think it was in the Truck Series garage at the time, and kind of, or maybe the ARCA race had just wrapped up, and I was kind of taking pictures of a lot of the cars in the garage area. And Kurt Busch was there too. He was kind of all over the place during the race weekend. But he was kind of checking out the cars in the garage area. And at that point, they showed this picture. It's like, oh yeah, these wrecked cars, they're like off of turn 1. And it's like, okay, at first I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're off the banking or something, because there is kind of like a rocky hill there behind it. And then there's kind of a mountain that's behind that. So I wasn't exactly sure where it was. So I went back out of the track. I kind of went back out the pedestrian tunnel, and then back over to kind of Rattlesnake Hill. And Laspro just happened to be there. So he was actually kind of walking around the opposite direction and checking out where the crane was and kind of what that whole situation was. So he and I met up, and we were trying to find where on earth these cars were. And I could see from Gluck's picture, I mean, they were up on some kind of a hill, but it was a little hard to figure out what part of it was or what was the best way to get there. We ended up walking around that entire mountain that's behind the front straightaway. Rutledge Wood was out there too. He was he was getting ready to film a segment, I think, from the crane thing too. So he was out there, but we ended up taking like the long route. Took quite the hike there. Like there's one part we got up there and went up to the peak of this hill and then back down the other side. And then it turns out we could have taken a much shorter route past where the helicopter pads were, because there's a helipad out there that's behind like it kind of behind where the crane was, like again off of turn 1, and we went up there, and that's where the cars were. And so I had a lot of fun, like posting pictures from there, a little video on Twitter. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And yeah, trying to find chassis numbers for anything that NASCAR man's working on, because I know he really specializes in those chassis histories. Recognized the 75 truck that was up there with the rookie stripes on it. Apparently, I guess that was what I believe Billy Bigley's trucks that he ran, if I remember correctly. So yeah, really interesting to see what was up there. I thought that was pretty cool. And we got to see what was it? Trevor Bayne car was up there, a Paul Menard car. There was a show car for an Evernham Motorsports paint scheme, it looked like. Yeah, got some great pictures up there. So that was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed doing that. Big thanks to Jeff Gluck again for posting that original picture and for retweeting the thread that I put up on that. I tried to use photo threads a lot more this weekend to make some of these pictures more accessible. So if you're curious about like one phase of what we were doing over the weekend there, you can kind of check that out a little bit easier rather than have to search through tweets or whatever you prefer to look at there. So hopefully that worked out better for you guys there on that end. But that was enjoyable. Very exhausted after that, though. Big thanks to, I believe Michelle is her name. She was one of the people riding around on the go-kart, or not go-karts, the golf carts around the area. And she picked my brother and I up and got us back down the hill over to the infield there. So big thanks to her on that. Everybody was really cool. The atmosphere at the track was really good, just like it was at Las Vegas. Everybody, I think, was certainly excited to be there. And excited for what was going to be taking place in the different races there. So, at that point, kind of, wound down, kind of got my feet back under me and checked out what was happening in the Xfinity garage and the other series there too. I guess the kind of interesting thing with the ARCA race before we went over to there, I got a lot of questions about the car that Bobby Hillis Jr. was driving because he wasn't driving a neon colored car like he usually did. He actually had a plain white car with a red Menards banner on it. Got a lot of pictures of that, so hopefully those of you who were asking about that car, we got some good shots of it. Bummer for Jake Finch. He was looking like he was going to have a good run there. Love that he was running the old Jeff Purvis colors for his father's team. Good to see a Phoenix Racing hauler there in any respect, really, being part of that series, so that was really cool. Jake Drew locking up the championship, of course, there, and other drivers having just really surprising runs at the same time. So that was pretty cool. Let's see. I saw people mentioning this at the same time here in the chat there about Mike Potter. Yes, a big thanks to JD Motorsports and the folks over there for actually showing pictures of the actual, what was it? The decals that were on the 4 car and the 6 car there with Mike Potter's face on it. Actually getting, I think it was one of the Brian Hallman pictures actually that was used in there. So kudos to them on that. I thought that came out really nicely on that, and they picked a great spot for it on both those cars. So that was really exciting. Let's see. Yeah, I see the comment here. Where was that? Where did it go? Let's see. You hiked up and down Rattlesnake Hill, RD Fox 76. No. Even dumber than that. It wasn't Rattlesnake Hill. Rattlesnake Hill is the one with the Toyota logo on it where you can sit on it. No, we went on the unincorporated hill that's used as like an access path to get to like the helipad. Like we did something even dumber. So we went over there and climbed up that hill. So I don't even know if that hill has a name or not, but it's like whatever. It's whatever the one is between where you're getting from the far turn 1, or I guess it would be turn 4 edge of the grandstand, so turn 1. It's like that stretch of there. But I don't know what that hill's called, but it was hard to climb, I'll tell you that. I did not bring my climbing boots for that particular race, so that was a little bit more of a challenge there too. But it was a lot of fun, so that was pretty cool. Luckily, we didn't get waved off the hill there or anything like that. Let's see. Kind of checking that. Yeah, really interested. Really interested in some of the details on some of those wrecked cars up on the hill for the extrication practice. Like some of them had like the Happy Kevin Harvick, the KHI Incorporated logo emblazoned on one of them. Another one with the Hutcherson Pagan logo on there, so that was pretty cool. Let's see. Very pleased with how some of these pictures came out. I know there was that one I had of Eric Jones coming out of the garage area. That's one of the best parts of the Phoenix weekend is that cup practice that happens right when the sun's coming down. And if you get kind of that view from the not from the start finish line, from the gates as the cars come out, like this shot here, for example, they got the Eric Jones coming out there, and the light did it just perfectly there. I'm gonna have to make that my wallpaper for my computer here probably after this. I got to download it here, but I got to get that uploaded there again. So all of this led into the Truck Series race here that night, and again, very different levels of attrition in this one. In this particular case, there was an incident in the very early laps between Keith McGee and Armani Williams, two drivers that are relatively new to the circuit, both of them in different situations. I think both of them haven't driven for Josh Rialm before. Williams was driving for Young's Motorsports in this case. Unfortunately, got tangled up in an incident. Williams, now this was a struggle that I was having on my end. I was trying to record it on my phone, did not work. Where the infield care center is, it is like so close to where the cars are coming by through turns 1 and 2. It is absolutely deafening. If you don't have like a high-powered mic, you're not going to be hearing anything. Luckily, I did have the microphone there to actually kind of record it. Unfortunately, the batteries were dead on it. So the guy next to me, I believe he was with Front Stretch also, he got the quotes there from that. So big thanks to him, because that really saved my bacon on that, because the way I was doing it just wasn't working. But what was revealed from that interview, Williams was very contrite for that, took full responsibility for the incident. I thought that was really cool. I mean, it was just a complete mistake on his part there. Unfortunately, stuff like that happens, and I know that the Truck Series, it sometimes gets some criticism from drivers that are still trying to kind of figure things out, much like you hear from some people talking about ARCA. But in the same situation, I think that, it's still providing a valuable opportunity for these drivers to learn. It's unfortunate when it comes down to a race like this, where it's the end of the season, and Keith McGee was certainly frustrated to be eliminated from the race so early. Tried to keep going with damage on his truck. Unfortunately, couldn't keep up minimum speed, or the crash clock expired on him. Ended up finishing next to last, with Williams last and out of the race at that point there. So an unfortunate deal for both drivers there, but that ended up being your last place battle for that. Spencer Boyd had already locked up the LASCAR Truck Series Championship at Homestead, so I presented him with his certificate. He was really cool about that. Big thanks to Spencer for talking with me. The video from that interview is on my Twitter feed if you haven't seen it yet, so you can check that out there at the same time. Along this same time here, during this truck race, I was grabbing something to eat, and I went down to the infield, and I believe that was where I met the folks from the Three Friends Racing were there. Both the individuals there involved in getting that program together. This is a program out of Germany that's looking to get into the Cup Series next year. They would not indicate which race they were looking into getting a start at. I know I was getting a couple of questions from people on that. But what they were telling me was that they were still looking to do it in 10 races next year. They were planning on doing a partial schedule this year. Time frame didn't quite work out. They haven't entered a race yet. I think it was the Roval they were supposed to make a debut at. I don't remember what exactly it was. But they're still very much interested. I mean, this is very similar to what we saw, I think, last year or the year before, where Jonathan Cohen was there at the actual race at Phoenix, even though he didn't have a car entered in it. But they were just there as fans. They were sitting in the stands and watching the racing from this weekend. Very excited to be a part of it. We're just kind of rubbing elbows with other people in the garage area too. They were kind of just sitting there in the fan zone with a couple Bud Lights and watching the Truck Series race. And they were very friendly. Was really enjoyed speaking to the both of them there. Hope to get some more information on what exactly they have planned coming up here. They were very excited when I brought up Sears Point. They said specifically they do want to run at least one of those 10 races in California, because they feel that could be a good opportunity to promote things. Whether it's going to be Sears Point or maybe this last race at Fontana, now with the news that we had coming out on that, last race at Fontana's 2-mile oval before whatever is going to be happening to the track here. I know that they haven't fully confirmed what on earth they're going to be doing beyond that. But really cool to see. I love to see like new team members come in there. Actually ran into them a couple times. I mean, they were there actually during the whole Ty Gibbs thing on Sunday morning too. They were kind of floating around the garage area. But very approachable guys. I think it's a very exciting to see people bring new personalities into the sport and new programs out there. I'm sure they're looking at what happened with Team Hesburgh this year and how many struggles they had on mechanical issues, especially running two cars when they had both Daniel Kvyat and Loris Hezemans out there. But again, I think doing a very limited schedule and having the opportunity to that, kind of talking to him about how many short fields we had this year. Ultimately, the only race that had 40 cars in it was the Daytona 500. And we had a couple that had 39 cars, and then almost all the remaining races at 37 or 36. Very, very small fields out there. So the opportunity is there. Whether you can kind of grow a program into something that becomes a chartered program, that remains still the steepest challenge. I asked them why they weren't interested in doing the Xfinity or Truck Series, and basically their answer was it's much easier to market to a sponsor that you're doing the Cup Series. I mean, everybody knows that this is the big draw, that this is the big series, this is the top the series with the top names. And it's nothing against Xfinity or Trucks, but apparently they felt that that was going to be much more attractive to bringing sponsors into the sport. So they're very transparent on that, and I think it's going to be very exciting to see what they can do coming up here. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that end and find out what's going to be happening on that too. So yeah, Three Friends is very friendly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, Captain Ron. Captain Ron says hi. Hi, hello there. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you had a safe drive there back from the track there for sure. Into the Truck Series race. I got to talk with Bill Mars before the race started there, working on the Zane Smith's pit crew. Great guy. We always seem to cross paths one time or another. He was understandably nervous before the start of the race, hoping for the best out of Zane after he won the pole, going for the Truck Series championship. Ultimately, a great battle towards the end there, where the other championship contenders were right in the thick of it there. I think they had the right group of 4 guys that were in the picture. Ty Majeski absolutely going for it. Unfortunately, the truck just got away from him, ran into the wall, dropped him back in the order there, but really went for it. I think he's got nothing to hang his head about after finally getting his first win, and has other opportunities to kind of get things going. But Zane Smith, after coming so close to pulling off the Truck Series championship the last couple of years, only to come up just one spot short, comes in and actually absolutely dominates and takes the win there. A fantastic run for them. Fantastic run for Front Row Motorsports too, who did, by the way, remember to take their banners with them. So kudos to them and that program there. Very exciting to see there at the same time. Let's see here. And looking at other ones from the Truck Series race, Armani Williams, Keith McGee, Spencer Boyd, Raja Caruth, and Haley Deegan were your bottom 5 finishers in the Truck Series race. A couple hard hits for Caruth and Deegan in the closing laps of that event. Johnny Sauter back in the order in the 28th spot. They had some damage to the nose of that truck from practice that they were kind of patching up on Friday before sending him back out there. Looking at other runs here, Zane Smith over Ben Rhodes, Chandler Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, and Stuart Friesen, your top 5 in that race. Caden Honeycutt, great run for him in the 9th spot there. First career top 10 finish for him. Was getting interviewed after the race there. He said it just meant so much for that team, as it was understandable. Stephen Lane's team, we'd seen some great runs with other drivers before. I think Brennan Poole drove for him before. They've had some good runs. They've had some not so good runs. But this is a program that's very much plugged into the whole short track scene, and really had a good performance out there. So that was so exciting to see, different talent get up there. I know in a playoff race, it's very easy for other drivers to kind of get overshadowed there. But it was good to see him getting some attention and getting interviewed along the way after the race. I was about to follow up on some more interviews after that race, but I was getting so dang cold after that race. It got way colder during that race than I absolutely expected. I should have brought a couple extra layers for that one. I was just out there in a polo shirt and slacks there, and that was not nearly enough. So got back in there, finished the Truck Series article. Zane Smith was partying with the fans there over at the barn in the backfield of the track there, and no issues in inspection or anything on that. Lane Riggs coming back from damage to finish 13th after starting outside pole. Fantastic qualifying run for him. I think he's another guy. I hope he gets some more starts next year. I know they're still working on some things over at the Hallmark Friesen effort. Hopefully they figure something out there and get him some more performances, because I think he's a lot of fun to watch. And it's good to see these next generation drivers really kind of continue things from maybe their drivers that maybe aren't the first ones you really think about as having any kind of legacy in the sport. But we've seen, of course, in recent years how good Ryan Blaney has been. And drivers of that nature. So that's really cool to see. So hopefully we'll see a lot more of that, not too much further in the future. But yes, indeed, Spencer Boyd, your last place finisher, flagged off the track for running too slow in this particular race after 63 laps in that event there. Moving on to the Xfinity race. This was probably the one that I enjoyed the most for the weekend. Again, congratulations to Ty Gibbs on the championship, beating Noah Gragson and Justin Allgaier. Gragson and Allgaier distinctly not happy. And of course, this is well before everything happened, what happened overnight between Saturday and Sunday. Again, hopefully people aren't being too critical on Gragson and Allgaier or the fans that were booing during that race for what happened. Obviously, nobody had any idea what was going to be happening that night. But I thought the three put on a fine show, much like with the other races again. With Zane Smith the day before and Joey Logano the day after, Ty Gibbs was firmly in control from the start, built up a solid lead. Nobody wrecked him. There was not a situation we had. I know there's a lot of hype about that, especially after the Brandon Jones situation. Jones himself was spun out at one point at the entrance of pit road, but did not actually get in any kind of particular incident with Gibbs. Gibbs' car was pretty much immaculate when he got to victory lane. At least it seemed like that. So kudos again to him on the championship. Landon Castle with another top five, actually beating his colleague teammate AJ Allmendinger, who got the fifth place finish there. Sheldon Creed, well short of the last car championship. They're finishing in the sixth spot of Riley Herbst, Daniel Hemrick, Austin Hill, and Sammy Smith rounding out the top 10. Smith had a much better run than that going after starting outside pole himself, but unfortunately multiple spins and incidents there kept him from capitalizing on that. Big thanks to the drivers I spoke to after the race. Raja Karuth was very cool to talk to him. That was one driver that I was hoping to talk to at Vegas. I'm glad I was able to make up for that here. I didn't get to talk to Parker Retzliff. I was hoping to, but that kind of fell through. But I did talk with Bailey Curry, gave him the certificate. I want to really thank him for being really cool about that too. I was trying different things there. I think the best way to approach that so far is doing, first and foremost, don't lose the certificate on pit road like I did in the Cup Series race. But second of all, in the Xfinity race or trucks or whatever, just actually kind of hand the certificate over first and then lead into an interview and kind of contextualize it. With Curry, I think that was particularly helpful because Curry was really good in that Xfinity race. He was running about 14th, 19th through the entire distance, and he's shown so much improvement. I mean, he was already really good with Mike Harmon's team. Yes, they've had some bad luck, like when we were at Texas and they had the battery issue. Same driver, but getting in the 4-car. I mean, we talked to him in Vegas last year when he got 13th there. That was a great run, and he's kind of built on that program, and it's really good to see. And I hope that he stays there. It sounds like they're going to keep things more or less the same, although with the big exception of Ryan Vargas, that's now parted ways with the team after running at Martinsville. So we'll see what the situation is there too. But the big story from this had to be the last car Xfinity Series championship. This was probably the most fun I was having the week. It's hard to tell. There were a lot of fun moments from this weekend for sure. Loved doing the hike with Lasbro up to the race car graveyard. Loved meeting with a lot of the other viewers there over by the red carpet. There were some really cool moments there along the way. But the Xfinity Series championship, I knew it was going to be close. I had to get all the scenarios memorized as best as I could. I had a little note with me there that I was kind of keeping track of where everybody was in the point standings and what needed to happen and what was going to happen or what wouldn't happen. So that was kind of where we were at that point. But a very exciting race, though. So at the beginning of the Xfinity Series race, you had a situation where Bailey Curry had just taken the last car Xfinity Series lead coming into the Phoenix race. He had taken it from Brennan Poole. Poole was not entered at Martinsville, but was entered at Phoenix. And we knew this because he was going to run the Out of the Groove paint scheme with Eric Estep. Kudos to Eric on that. It was a great-looking car. Eric was very excited, as well he should be. That was a fun effort there, and I'm glad I didn't have to give his driver the certificate, although it came very, very close to happening. That was very much a possibility, depending on how things shook out in that particular event. Looking at why is that not loading? There it is. So Bailey Curry took the lead in last car standings, 2 last place finishes, 5 bottom 5s, and 13 bottom 10s. And everybody down to Sheldon Creed. 9 drivers in total were eligible for the Xfinity Series championship. That list was whittled to 8 when Matt Mills failed to qualify for the race. So now you had 8 drivers left to compete for it. And what would happen from one moment to the next could completely change it. And so that was the exciting part. We actually had a race where the position changed multiple times. While Ty Gibbs was pretty much dominating the front of the field, the back of the field was very much a different story. So in the opening laps of it, Joe Graff Jr. was your last place starter. He had to go to a backup car after hitting the outside wall. Graff had more bottom fives but less bottom tens than Bailey Curry. But Graff could actually take the lead if he finished last place in the actual race, getting his 8th bottom 5 and 12th bottom 10. And there would have been nothing that any of the other drivers could do. So if Graff had actually finished last and locked that up, championship was going to be his, and he'd be the certificate winner. Then things changed hands along the way. Brandon Brown hit the outside wall. His teammate, the 08 car, Brandon Brown, then took the lead himself, but had a much slimmer lead. In his particular case, Brown had only one last place finish, 5 bottom 5s, and 11 bottom 10s. That would cost him, put him ahead by one bottom 5 over Curry, but he would be behind on bottom 10s. So if Curry finished bottom 5 in that situation, Curry would be able to take the lead back from Brandon Brown. But Brown came back out after he was 30 laps in the garage area. He was still running in last place, but he was going to look apparently set to run for the finish of the race. Attrition still remained really low for the first half of that event, which was kind of a common thread, not so much for the Truck Series and ARCA, but definitely for Xfinity and Cup on that end there. So Brandon Brown was in a situation where he couldn't lock it up yet, even if he just was in the garage area and he couldn't come back out, because things could turn out very differently in that sense, and depending on where Curry or Poole or these other drivers were finishing. So you had Brown's situation. He gets back out there, and he's logging laps, and he's kind of getting towards the finish. And then Dylan Bassett, who qualified 12th. I really enjoyed talking with him earlier before the race and kind of understanding more about his team and his program and how much they've improved. And that was really cool because this is the first time I've seen Bassett racing in person. I think they withdrew from Vegas, so they were never entered at all. So that was really exciting. But you had a situation there where, if the 77 car finished in last place, that would move Brandon Brown back out of last place, which would put Curry back in the lead. And so Curry was back in the lead. But, what you had there at that point is like, how many laps are actually going to be left in the race? And this was the most exciting part of it here because, there was word over the radio that Brown was going to maybe exit the race earlier. Was there more of a problem? It seemed like that whatever repairs they made in the garage, those 30 laps, actually did work because he was actually pulling away from some of the other cars that were at the back of the field, which is very, very interesting to see and ultimately played a role in how the race played out. But when Dylan Bassett lost an engine very close to the finish, Brown had just enough laps to get around him. About 10 laps to go, Brown got back around him, finishing in the next to last spot. And then Brown pulled behind the wall, and he was done for the day. And with that situation there, Curry had the lead again. But one thing I overlooked, and I will admit that I overlooked this coming down to it, this did not change anything with Brennan Poole's situation as being a potential spoiler for taking the championship. The Poole still had a path open by finishing bottom 5 if Curry finished outside the bottom 5. And Curry was finishing outside the bottom 5. He was 19th or 14th. He was kind of in that range. And Poole was further back in the order. At one point, he was in the bottom 5. I know Eric Estep had the great meme where, his face was on the hood of the car and they had some tape on his chin because they got in the back of somebody and something happened out there. But Poole was not done either. And at the end of the race there, he climbed about the 29th spot. Bailey Curry, I believe, where was he, 19th at the finish? Yes, 19th at the finish. And Curry just locked up the championship on the tiebreaker there, even though neither of those drivers were in the bottom 10. So kudos to those both drivers there in that case. It was very exciting to see that play out. I had the certificate on hand. Luckily, I didn't lose that one. I would have felt really bad if I lost that one, had to mail it after such a dramatic finish there. But that was an exciting one to see. I thought that was a lot of fun to follow. I hope you guys had a lot of fun following that online for sure. So that was definitely a big part of that experience. Hang on. Let me pull this up here. Let's see. Hang on. Okay. Did I open the right window? Make sure I didn't close this. Okay, good. I still got that. Let's see here. So on the Xfinity Series, NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship 2, I posted a message about this earlier. The certificates, I have the 8 remaining certificates that did not go out, starting with Brendan Pools right here. These are the actual certificates from that race. These are not reprints. All of them are signed by myself and have a NASCAR sticker on them and laminated by myself over at home here. So these are all on eBay right now if those of you are interested. Got low starting bids on each of them. Free shipping if you're interested. I believe the auctions go through next week. So that'll be something that you guys can check out. If you get I haven't had any interest in reprints or anything yet. If that changes, we can always kind of work that out down the line. But that's something to kind of look forward to at the same time. So, hang on here. Let's see. Got a minor dent in the hood. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Michael Jensen, thank you so much for your super chat, by the way. Thank you for all the awesome content through the year. A lot to look forward to in 2023. Will you be doing any live streams in the off season? Thank you so much for the super chat there, Michael. It's very, very generous of you. Thank you so much. To answer your question, yes, absolutely. Planning on doing some streams over the off season. Not every week. Probably something similar to kind of what we did last year. I think we did one around the holidays, and we did some other ones here and there. Certainly, if there's other big news stories that come up, we'll probably jump on the stream here, maybe do a shorter one and do something like that. We can always do more trivia and everything too. So this is not going to be the last one between now and February. What I will be focusing a lot on is working on getting this next video ready. I have another produced video I'd love to kind of get back up on the channel and check that out too. So definitely keep an eye out for that information at the same time. But thank you so much for the super chat there, Michael. Absolutely. Let's see here. We could do some trivia here to wrap things up. I always feel like I'm leaving something out whenever I talk about something from these other races here. Let me look at my other notes. Got these other pictures here. Let's put a period on this here as well. Casemiro and Will were the two people I spoke with the drawings here. And I believe, where was the artist? Where was that? That was where are the pictures here? Yes. I think it was, let's see. I don't want to attempt this. Let me make sure I got this. Alrighty. Yes, at Egido Val is the artist online there. They did the drawings there for Ty Dillon as well as the pennies there. So big thanks to them as well. I think that was good. Michael Jensen, yes, thank you for mentioning it. Yes, Kyle Weatherman had a good run in that race too. Absolutely. Jesse Iwuji was very happy with the performance that team had. Everybody was really cool. The atmosphere after the Xfinity race was actually pretty good. Talking with, you had BJ McLeod was there. Tommy Joe Martins. Jordan Anderson was there because this is his first full weekend back since his fire at Talladega. Anderson is still undergoing more treatments actually for the burns that he suffered at Talladega, but hopefully he's on the shorter side of that there and wrapping that up, and we'll find out what his racing plans are for next season, certainly going forward. Let's see here. Okay, those are more pictures from that. I hope you guys enjoyed the diecast pictures too. I always have fun doing those. I always bring a couple with me to any of these races we cover in person. I think it's a lot of fun kind of posting that. So, yeah, Saturday night, I kind of did those interviews, finished the article on that. We just kind of hung out at the hotel that evening. Last Bro caught a bit of a cold, so I was kind of keeping an eye on that. But he felt better on Sunday. We kind of got back out to the track there that day, and then kind of wrapped things up from there. So, really, all in all, yeah, it'll be a very, very busy weekend. I think all three races were very interesting there from that. If you guys have any other questions on things that happened from those races that I haven't talked about yet, definitely go ahead and let me know what your questions are on that, and I'll make sure I cover that at the same time too. I'm trying to remember any other things that left over from that. There we go. Alrighty. Let me do some show and tell here as well. I mean, I got the certificates from that. But that wasn't really so much the show and tell. I do have the tube that Casemiro gave me here at the track, and I haven't opened it yet. I was going to save that for the show here. So let's do that. I think that would be a fun thing to have on here. I definitely want to see these look here. Okay, excellent. So again, at Gidoval on Twitter is the artist. Big thanks to him. Big supporter of the site. Really enjoys the videos. Took particular inspiration from 3 before February for one of these here that was shared. And again, big thanks to Ty Dillon as well. We went over to his Casemiro arranged it with him to go have us go by the motor coach lot and present it to him. Ty Dillon, again, really laid back guy. It was really cool to hear. He and his family were there, his wife and their 2 children. Again, and I know it was emotions were tempered a little bit on his end because he was giving his last race with Petty GMS, especially with the news now of Petty GMS now getting Jimmy Johnson as an investor. That was kind of a big news from this weekend for sure. But now, looking ahead to what he could do at Spire Motorsports. We'll see what he can do on that end. Hopefully that team kind of takes its next step. And I think, Ty Dillon's a good guy there. So big thanks to him as well, participating in that. He was very genuine on that and had a great family there. So kudos to them on that. But let's take a look at what we got here. Oh, here we go. These are, oh man. I got a glimpse of just like some scans of these before, but this is my first time seeing like the actual reprints. I kind of bring these out. Alright. Just kind of carefully bring these out. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, here we go. Oh, excellent. So bring these 2 here. Oh my goodness. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, here we go, folks. Let me roll this bad boy out here for you. So this first one here, this was done again by Gidoval. This was, again, kind of a history of the number 42 car, not just from the Petty team, but other programs. You got the corner there. You got Marty Robbins' car. You got Kyle Petty, of course. Ty Dillon's car there in the foreground right next to, I believe it's Jim Pascal's car. If not Lee Petty's 42 there at the same time. Really hip there. He's got a very good eye for kind of the sports history there. So that was the one that he presented. There's another one that he did of Richard Childress and Austin and Ty Dillon that was there too. But the other one that I got a print of was one that was presented by this same Casemiro also helped present to Kyle Petty at one of his book signings for his book there. So check out this one. This was the one that was inspired by 3 before February. And oh man, that came out really good. So again, here, shot of Richard, Kyle, and Adam Petty there. The number 42, the 43, 44, 45 cars from back in the early 2000s. Really nice job on that one there. So big thanks. Big thanks to them there on that. So I really, really enjoy these. These came out beautifully. I was so scared to make sure nothing happened to these here that weekend. Like I say, I was carrying these with me there back to the media center during the Ty Gibbs situation there, and so I'm so glad that they got back here okay. So I got that. So those will definitely. I know I've been saying it a lot here that these are things I got to add to Last Car headquarters here. Eventually, I got a few things that got to get framed. I got other things that got to get displayed. But this will definitely be added on there. So thank you so much to Casemiro, to Will, his friend, both of them U.S. Marine Corps veterans. Again, big thanks to them, especially this week with Veterans Day this weekend, as well as to at Gidoval for his artwork here as well. And it's touching to know that something I produced was an inspiration for this here. He did beautiful work on this for sure. So I hope you get a chance to see this if you haven't seen it already too. And also thank you, Casimiro, for the compliments on my mother's quilt back here too. She was very touched by that too. So I made sure to tell her that after you notice this one in the background here, our race day quilt with the old 1990s patterns here and everything. So we got that there too. So what we'll do here, yeah, that was a masterpiece. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think they did. Yeah, I think he did a wonderful job on these. So I'm going to make sure that those stay in a safe spot there in the meantime. Okay, so we'll do some trivia questions here to wrap up for the evening. Again, I apologize if I'm a little scattered here tonight. It's always a little challenging doing it a couple days after a race here, especially with what was going on here. I need to get to the... Actually, hang on. We may do something a little bit different for our trivia segment tonight. Do I have... Okay, that's not it. I thought I had another trivia thing here. Is this it? Here we go. All right. You know, in the spirit of the petty pictures here, or the ones here, Gino Val's pictures, let's go ahead and do some petty-related trivia questions here at the same time. So a little different. Probably something a little bit special here since it's the championship one here. And again, congratulations to our champions, Jake Drew in the ARCA West Series, Zane Smith in the Truck Series for our good buddies at Front Row Motorsports. Really stoked about that. Again, big thanks for the stuff you sent myself, especially last bro here. We were over the moon about that there after the banner deal back in Vegas. On the Xfinity side, of course, Ty Gibbs. And then on the Cup Series side, Joey Logano with his second championship. So we'll do some questions on these Trivial Pursuit cards here. And let's kind of figure this out. I'm trying to remember last time we did these. Alrighty. Okay. I think questions are on the other side. Let's try one of these here. Alrighty. Not that one. Let's see. Alrighty, here we go. First question, folks. This is we got a petty related question on this one. Who was the 1998 crew chief for the Richard Petty number 43 race team? Who was the 1998 crew chief for the Richard Petty number 43 race team? Charlie Fabrosis. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like the pictures there as well. Yeah. No, it's kind of interesting. I'm sure he works with like different filters and kind of more of like the art layering there too. And I understood they do some work with like NFTs and cryptocurrencies there as well. So I think that's part of the inspiration there too. But yeah, very distinctive style though. I'm gonna have to really I'm absolutely floored. Between these and the ones I got from Michael Juskowitz and Rob Taylor, I got some other artwork that I really need to I need to set up a wall here, kind of like what we have with the quilt here. Maybe something over on the wall back here. But we'll figure something out. We're going to find a good place for it for sure. But big thanks to all of them for sure. Again, the first question here, who was the 1998 crew chief for the Richard Petty number 43 race team? Alrighty, here we go. Who is the 1998 crew chief for the Richard Petty number 43 race team? The answer is Robbie Loomis. Correct. Robbie Loomis is the correct answer. Eric Banton, Charlie Fabrosis, and Charles Peterson, you both got it for sure. Alrighty. Here we go. So let's do a Truck Series question here. In 1997, who drove the number 7 lovable truck in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series? Also, welcome back, Craftsman. You got the Truck Series, Craftsman Truck Series coming back next season. Going to be very exciting on that. Oh, Regigod, yeah, I think that's my favorite item too for the front row motorsports thing. That shirt is so cool. I thought about bringing it out at least for. I mean, I can't bring it out for media, of course. I can't do that, but wearing it off the track there this weekend. But I still have it for sure. Yeah, I especially it looks great with like a white shirt under it. It's such a nice shirt. So yeah, big thanks to Front Row Motorsports on that. Last Bros is good too. He's got the one with the actual Front Row Motorsports logo on it. So that was really cool. So big thanks to them on that. And again, congratulations to them on the team. It was great talking with Bill Mars about that. He was so excited. I mean, it was great to see. I'm just so relieved because I didn't want to have to give them the last car, last car article there to finish the year. That's the risk you run. I know I got the question earlier today about if there's a possibility that whoever wins the Cup Series championship wins the last car championship too. And, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, it's very possible. And if that does happen, now I'm not going to charge the stage like was suggested. I know we're just having fun with it here. But I would present it to him. Yeah, I present it like, hey, you get this too. I don't think I'd do it in front of the media availability. I'd probably find a way to do it a little more discreetly. That would kind of be the goal there. So that would kind of be it. The question again here, in 1997, who drove the number 7 lovable truck in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series? Peter Schickelli, Tammy Jo Kirk, Mike Skinner, Rob, there we go. Got your tickets renewed to IRP, Eric. Excellent. Alrighty, the answer is indeed Tammy Jo Kirk. So you all got it there. Yeah, Eric, Michael, Charles, you all got it. Oh, and Maserati 9, you too. Excellent. Alrighty. Okay, the answer to this one is a number. Now, don't look it up because it'd be too easy to check out. How many top 10 finishes did Richard Petty have? How many top 10 finishes did Richard Petty have in his career? Does that mean we get the toolboxes in Victory Lane again? I hope so, Charles. I hope so. That would be pretty awesome. I know, yeah, it's election day, so yeah, I'm sure that's why we have fewer viewers in here. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's a little bit unusual here for this week's show, but I hope you. But I definitely wanted to put a bow in everything from this weekend because it was a tremendous weekend. It's sad that there was that tragic element to it there. And again, our hearts go out to the folks over there at the Gibbs family. But I think there was a lot of strength that was shown from Joe Gibbs Racing, from 2311, from the other Toyota programs, from, and the competitors in general. I mean, they were told about this before the race started, and that can't be easy. And, even Logano, his celebration seemed tempered a bit in Victory Lane there too. So, yeah. So kudos to them on that, because that could not have been easy at all. So certainly. How many top 10 finishes did Richard Petty have? We got answers for 650s, 43, I like it. 580, 724. Yeah, it's Tuesday entirely. Yeah, exactly. Polls already closed for me. Yeah, polls are still open here on the West Coast, but yeah, this is not going to be frontline here tonight. I'll leave that to other people there too. But that'll be another one. How many top 10 finishes did Richard Petty have? The answer is 712. 712. Matthew Watkins, you were very close. 724. 712 is the correct answer. Ooh, here we go. I might use these cards more often going into the off season here. These are some good ones here. All right, here we go. Next question, folks. Which car is named for a popular resort on the Mediterranean Sea? Which car is named for a popular resort on the Mediterranean Sea? Now, I would assume it means a race car in the Cup Series. And I would also assume that it means a model name, not necessarily a brand name. But again, I'm not sure. Which car is named for a popular resort on the Mediterranean Sea? Yeah, it is Tuesday, right? Yeah, because I got work tomorrow, so I got to make sure I'm even on this here for sure. By the way, here's the little bonus here as well. Here's the cars that I had from the ones I brought out there to put on the grid there. So you got the uh, actually here I'll just kind of open it up this way. You can see that a little bit better. Yeah, I got the Championship 4 here, the Logano, the Chastain, the Bell, and the Elliott, and then picked up this Kyle Busch there over at the track over the weekend there. Um, Kudos to the track there. They actually converted one of the garage stalls into a merch store, which I think was a great idea, that they had one in the infield. They had another one in the outfield that was bigger, but they made it much easier to actually grab. I mean, it was such a breath of fresh air that it wasn't like another trailer that I could go in there and I could just grab. I was like, okay, this, and this. Like I can grab my get a program, get a pin, see if they have the die cast, and then bam, get out of there. That was very handy. So kudos to Phoenix. They're constantly working on stuff over there, which I think is excellent. Alrighty. Which car is named for a popular resort on the Mediterranean Sea? That was the question that we had here. We got the Chevy Monte Carlo. We got the Nova. Italian Swimmer. Dodge Monaco. You want to go old school? Yeah, I don't know how old school we want to go, but yeah. The answer is indeed Monte Carlo. Okay, Monte Carlo. So yeah, a lot of you got that. RD Fox 76, you were the first one on that. 611 Hornet. Eric Banton. There you go. Let's see. Let's turn it upside down. Let's see here. What tool company was a sponsor of John Andretti's number 37 car in 1996? What tool company was a sponsor of John Andretti's number 37 car in 1996? That is the question. Is there a holy grail diecast you really want but haven't found yet, Brock? That's a good question, Eric. Yeah, I mean those are two things that I buy too many of. Is the 64 scale diecast and shirts. Like I've tried to reel the shirts in more, but tough to say with the diecast. There's always the thing is, I mean, that was one thing that was missing from Phoenix this weekend. That was a real bummer. Is they did not have the gypsy tents this year, like the traveling tents, like they had them in Texas. Phoenix every year they usually have a good group of them around the Circle K. That's about 2 miles from the track. This year they didn't have any, and I guess maybe the fuel costs might have been a factor. I know it's a long drive out here, and it was $4 gas in Arizona, but it was still $7 gas in California. So I certainly understand that. I hope it wasn't anything more serious than that. But it always surprises me what's made. I don't really have a holy grail one I'm looking for. Probably the Bell South 01 car that Ted Musgrave drove in 2000. I know that one's very, very hard to find. Billy Kingsley thankfully has some great pictures of it, so that's good enough for me here. That would probably be the one. I'm very much a stickler for things that were like official releases. I don't buy a lot of customs. I buy some, but not many. It just gets too expensive. But yeah, probably that one. Probably that one. I would say. It would it would have to be something a bit older. But again, I love seeing like the tents because then it surprises me sometimes what was made because there was a time where so many companies were involved in it and made so many different versions of them. And then, to the point where Hot Wheels made like the certain paint scheme, they would put them on a blimp or a hot rod or something like that. It's a whole different world, but yeah. What tool company was a sponsor of John Andretti's 37 car in 1996? And the answer was Mac. Mac Tools is correct. Let's see. Matco, Fastenal. Matco, Mac Tools is the correct answer. Charles Peterson Jr. is sponsored by Kmart Little Caesars. That's correct, but it's asking which one for the Ted Musgrave one. Yeah, Ted Musgraves is in a promo. That would be pretty cool. Again, after that one, the one I showed on the show last week with the Stacey Compton one, that it got sent there. I mean, that was amazing. I didn't even know that existed. See, that's the thing. Probably the one that would be like Holy Grail would be one I don't even know exists. And then I find out it's there. Like, once I found out that one was there, I was like, oh man, I got to track this down. But again, kudos. Thank you so much for sending that one. I got that one during that whole deal. Where was that? Just kind of checking these other messages here in the meantime. If you ever find a diecast of John Andretti's Hot Rod Lincoln at any scale, I'd probably pay good money for that. Was that the 14 car or Hot Rod? Oh, the Hot Rod Lincoln. Okay, it's the actual Lincoln. Yeah, the Mark, what was it, the Mark 7 or whatever that was, the 37 car. I was thinking the 14 car he ran in 2005 because that one's hard to find too. I remember when he ran that because they got the owner points from AJ Foyt's team, and I think PPC Racing was trying to get back into Cup, so there was something like that. I might have my wires crossed on that one. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Next question. Over a 13-year period, the number 16 Mercuries owned by the late Bill Strope were known by what signature color scheme? Over a 13-year period, the number 16 Mercuries owned by the late Bill Strope were known by what signature color scheme? I don't know if they ever made diecast of the Lincoln. That would be pretty rad, though. Charlie Fabrosis, yeah, the throwbacks for JRM at Darlington. I know that I tried to order the 24th scale of the Sam Mayer because I liked the Rick Mass throwback. I thought that was really good. Are you saying that they didn't get made at 64th scale either? Because that would be a real bummer. I hope it would get made at something. I mean, I guess I could always do a custom, but I don't really, like I say, I don't really do that too much. I know there's a lot of really good customs these days, and there's some very, very, very talented people. They make them really good. But I always like the official ones. Like it's more, I like the ones, like I almost like the story of like, of them making them or something like that. I don't know. I'm too much of a purist when it comes to that. Oh, excuse me. I did not sleep very well last night. I don't know why. Slept plenty of hours, but I mean, I could not stay asleep last night. I was just excited to do the show, I guess. I don't know. Probably was. Over a 13-year period, the number 16 Mercuries owned by the late Bill Strope were known by what signature color scheme? Purple and white, yellow and purple, red and yellow, red and gold, maroon. Okay, we got several options here. All right, here we go. The answer is vibrant red, white, and blue. Vibrant red, white, and blue is the correct answer. Vibrant red, white, and blue is the correct answer. It's also raining really heavy. I'm just hearing it outside there. Man, oh man. Alrighty. We'll just do a couple more questions here and we'll wrap up for tonight here, folks. Let's see. Let's try this. Yeah, it's not bad. No, that was a little too easy. You guys know where Richard Petty scored his 199th victory, correct? I think that was a little bit too easy. All 64s they killed. Yeah, dead as a doornail. That's too bad, Charlie. I really liked, yeah, again, I love the Sam Mayer one. I ordered it the day they ran it. And then I got an email back. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. LOL, we're not making it. It's like, no, that's too bad. All right, here we go. In 1994, what product was the official pain reliever of NASCAR? In 1994, what product was the official pain reliever of NASCAR? Mute this for a second. In 1994, what product was the official pain reliever of NASCAR? You guys got it. You guys got it. Goodies is indeed the correct answer. Goodies. Goodies headache powder. See everyone for Goodies. Alrighty. Now let's see. Let's see here. Here we go. How many times? We'll just do a couple more questions here, folks. How many times did Cale Yarborough qualify at speeds over 200 miles per hour? Oh, rain just picked up again. There we go. How many times did Cale Yarborough qualify at speeds over 200 miles per hour? How many times did Cale Yarborough qualify at speeds of over 200 miles per hour? How many times did he do so? Oh, thank you. We actually got a couple bids on a couple of the certificates here. Already one for Brandon Brown and one for J.J. Yaley. So big thank you to those of you who are checking that out. If you haven't seen the listing yet, I'll post the link here in the chat if you are interested. One for J.J. Yaley. So big thank you. Excellent. I'm glad some of these are going to go home with people. So that's good. I always have fun. Every year. I mean, again, if it's every time that we do the championship race, we're going to be doing the certificates. And any time that they're left over, I'd be happy to make them available. Anybody who wants them. So we'll do that. It's exactly the ones I had on hand. So they're not reprints. So I guess you could do a certificate of authenticity for a certificate, but that's what those are right there. Question was again, how many times did Cale Yarborough qualify at speeds of over 200 miles per hour? Yes, is for 3 and 5 and 12 and 6. The answer is 15. 15 times is the correct answer. 15. 15 times in Cale Yarborough's career, he qualified over 200 miles per hour. Yeah, everybody was low. That's interesting. 15. Alrighty. In 1996, which Hanna-Barbera character was on the hood of Steve Grissom's number 29 car? In 1996, which Hanna-Barbera character was on the hood of Steve Grissom's number 29 car? Yeah, 15. Yeah. They call him Kale. That's why they do. 15 is the correct answer. According to these. In 1996, which Hanna-Barbera character was on the hood of Steve Grissom's number 29 car? Okay, we got Scooby-Doo, we got Fred Flintstone. All right. In 1996, which Hanna-Barbera character was on the hood of Steve Grissom's number 29 car? The answer is indeed Fred Flintstone. Fred Flintstone is correct. All right. One more question for tonight, folks. One more question. We'll do the last one here, and then we'll wrap up for this evening. Oh, wow. We're already up to 2 hours. Goodness. Okay, here we go, folks. Last question for the evening here. TNN's NASCAR Garage is hosted by Leslie Goodell and who? TNN's NASCAR Garage is hosted by Leslie Goodell and who? So who co-hosts NASCAR Garage on TNN with Leslie Goodell? TNN's NASCAR Garage is hosted by Leslie Goodell and who? Ah, tricky one. Tricky. Try to end it on a good one here. Alrighty. How about Atlanta for the finale? I'm reading some of the earlier comments here, Matt. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta for the finale would be cool if it were the older Atlanta. I don't think the new Atlanta will do it. I mean, why make it a super speedway race? Alrighty. I'll read it one more time here. TNN's NASCAR Garage is hosted by Leslie Goodell and who? Got Rick Benjamin, Neil Bonnet, Steve Burns, Dr. Punch, Pat Patterson, Eli Gold, Pemberton. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here comes the answer. The answer is Chris McClure. Chris McClure. I don't even remember that show. I didn't watch NASCAR Garage. I remember Inside Winston Cup Racing with Ned Jarrett and Steve Burns. That was much more. I remember Winners with Neil Bonnet. That was, other than the races, that was enough NASCAR programming for me, at least back then. Today's a little different. I guess Speed Week with Bob Jenkins, maybe, but I don't know if I watch that as often. Chris McClure is the correct answer. There you go. Whoop. Hang on. I'll have to pick those up. Anyway, so, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for the show this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for following along with the coverage this weekend at Phoenix. I know it was a very challenging weekend, but I really enjoyed a lot of the fun parts of it there from the weekend. Some very competitive racing. Checking out the race car, the derelict race cars outside the track there. I hope you got a good enjoyment of just kind of more the inside scoop of what was going on there through the weekend. And yeah, we're out to a couple more months here until the season begins again with the Clash at the Coliseum. Still figuring out if I'm going to cover that race or not. Certainly want to cover Fontana if that's going to be the last race at the 2 mile track. But that's kind of what we're looking at here. But to answer your question from earlier here, for those of you just tuning in here a bit late, I am planning on doing some more streams over the off season, and I'm also planning on producing some more content for the channel this off season. But at the same time, probably going to take a little bit of time and just kind of cool off here a little bit, especially probably through this week before I kind of get back into the swing of things again here. So, and I hope you guys are relaxing as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. My Twitter feed is at LastCarOnBrock. My Patreon is patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. And, of course, be sure to check out other videos on this channel if you haven't already for more content here and in the near future. I have hopefully some more stuff coming up here very soon for you to check out. So have a great evening, folks, and I'll see you next time.